Hi, everybody. Welcome. It isn't that it happened that should surprise you, cheating on a test. It is, though, just how many students did it, and then the fallout. The professor has become a folk hero because of his reaction. The students who were involved, some not understanding that what they did was wrong. The latest, they think they need an apology from the instructor. What we are talking about is this cheating scandal that happened over at the University of Central Florida in Orlando. Our guest, Michael Kennedy, he's founder of the Kennedy Consulting Group. That's a firm that helps families, high schools, and colleges through the admissions process. And LT Lafferty, he's practice leader for Fowler, White Boggs, white-collar crime, government investigations, and corporate compliance and ethics practice. LT is also part of the University of Tampa's College of Business Ethics Advisory Board. Good to see you both. Thanks for being here. And for those who don't know, who haven't been following the story over the last week, this UCF business instructor, Richard Quinn, he gives a test. It's a senior level business class. It's in strategic management. Turns out that up to a third of the class, that's 150 to 200 students, may have cheated. They got the questions, the possible questions for the test off the internet that they shouldn't have been able to get their hands on, but they did somehow. And as we've talked about this a little bit going in, it happens all the time. It's just that this is one of those things where it's blown up.
Very much so. It's just so easy to do. And today, with the technology being what it is, in the old days, if you wanted to plagiarize or misrepresent yourself, you could just go to the encyclopedia and you would do your work that way, or you would have your cheat sheet up your tie or whatever you wanted to do. Now it's the internet aspect, and because communication is boom, boom, boom so quick, it's so easy to do.
This professor, LT, confronts the students after he understands what has happened, and he says to them, "To say I'm disappointed is beyond comprehension. Physically ill, absolutely disgusted, completely disillusioned."
I think it's interesting to try to keep in focus the context of this. This was a senior level strategic management class. So these are our future business leaders that are taking this class here in this course, and they're taking this test. The U.S. News and World Report just recently did a study in which they said that 75% of all college students admit that they cheated. And in this class, there were 600 students in the class, and over 1/3 of those students admitted cheating on that test. 200 students came forward and admitted that they cheated on that test.
Because they came forward in a chance to they possibly clear their name. I mean, they got busted. They know who did this, and this professor has given them the option to clear their name, retake the test, and all that. You were telling me earlier, and I find this fascinating, that this is something, though, that goes back to high school. I mean, there is a sense of entitlement that seems to happen that, you know, I should be able to do this. A lot of these kids don't realize they did anything wrong, do they?
No.
Well, they do now, but...
Only because they got caught.
Right.
Had they not been caught in the act, it would not have influenced their decision-making at all. It starts even earlier than that, but when you have parents who cover for you and call up and say, my son is sick and they can't come in today, when in actuality they just didn't get their paper done and they need an extra day to prepare for that test or the exam. Kids get that sense that, gee, I can do anything I want to get ahead, whatever that needs to be, and it filters and goes up to the college ranks as well. But as we were talking about also, I mean, universities have an awful lot of responsibility in this because there are so many opportunities for them to preach ethics to the students and give examples of it, but they're hesitant in certain categories. And we use athletics as an example because UCF hired a coach, still has him, who was fired from Notre Dame because he lied on his resume and claimed he had a master's degree when he didn't, and that he played football for a university and he never played it down. But UCF didn't have any problem hiring him. So not that kids would sit there and say, that's why I did it.
Right.
But you can see these opportunities.
We've got some sound. Anne-Marie, if we're ready to run that, with the first piece of sound with one of these students who essentially not really sure they've done anything wrong. If we can, let's listen to that.
I feel like he's dragging us through the mud, making us out to be like someone broke into his office, put it online.
broke into his office and put it online. Actually, what happened, this was a midterm from what I've been able to find out. The grades were suspiciously high. A few days later, a student left in the instructor's mailbox a copy of the test bank. And that is a set of potential test questions produced for instructors by the textbook publisher. It's supposed to be unavailable to students, but pilfered copies are sold online.
Sure.
I mean, the technology has changed a lot since I was in school. I mean, you know, we didn't have that then.
And that actually is a real irony of this case is the New York Times did a story last summer touting this new electronic anti-cheating system that UCF put into play.
At UCF?
That's correct.
At the same school?
Right. That's correct. And here what we have is a good old-fashioned whistleblower who ratted out his fellow students. Because isn't that really who you're cheating? Is your other students, the other students that you're competing with, and of course you're cheating yourself out of the honor of doing it yourself.
And Mike, one of the things that has come out of this is this instructor and how he's handled it. And I mentioned that all those things he said about how disillusioned and disappointed he is. But the way he comes across, he is devastated by this.
Oh,
right?
very much so. I've never, in all my years of working with high schools, have I ever seen a teacher who's not hurt by this, because that's their profession. This is their passion. This is what they love to do. And when a student does it, it's a means of convenience. When it happens to the instructor, they take it very personally. And he's hurt. He's definitely hurt. He trusted those kids. He spent an entire semester or a year or longer with them. And now all of a sudden, they pull the rug out from underneath, and that hurts.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got an email from that I'm really excited about getting to here. And we've got some more sound and talking more about this. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are talking with Michael Kennedy, LT Lafferty today about this cheating scandal that has blown up really badly over at UCF. Some 200 students in a class of 600 caught, it appears, cheating on a senior level business midterm. We have an email from Joe. It says, the problem begins earlier than college. As a high school teacher, I found every level, all the way through AP and ethnic group, cheated. I had parents defend their kids cheating. Grades mean everything, not education. That's true, and it's everybody's fault that's allowed this to happen along the way,
right?
I
don't think so. And universities put so much pressure on kids to accumulate so many different distinctions and awards. High schools have a great time presenting all sorts of awards to kids throughout the year, and basically there seems to be much more of an emphasis on accumulating these honors and awards and appreciating what it takes to get to that level. And that's part of the issue.
And LT, and then you learn this in high school, you get into college, and then beyond that,
then you're in big trouble. That same U.S. News and World Report found that 51% of high school students don't think cheating is wrong. And then when they go through college, and 85% think that cheating is necessary to get a competitive advantage, what do we expect when they get out into the real business world? I've always said that the foundation of all white-collar crime is ethics. Ethical misconduct that escalates into white-collar crime. And we're entering into a new era of white-collar crime enforcement. And the result is you get a lot of prosecutions, a lot of investigations. And we're not surprised to see people prosecuted for a variety of offenses, but it all starts back when they're kids or in high school, and what values are they learning?
We've got some more sound. I want to run it. It needs some setup here. This is maybe the same student that was talking earlier. I'm not sure. And he says that the professor who was giving the test is responsible for this because of the way the test was designed, and that information was actually out there on the internet. Take a listen to this.
After seeing that, it was safe for any of us to assume that getting it online, having it emailed to you, whatever it wasn't the test.
I don't even know where you start there. Do you?
I don't. That's the type of mentality you're dealing with, though. And I think it's so pervasive throughout society. I mean, if you look at the steroid usage thing in athletics, they're not upset that they use steroids. They're upset that somebody leaked the information, that the agreement between professional baseball and the union was that you couldn't leak the information. That's what they're upset about. It's always somebody else's fault. It's not yours.
Well, I can tell you where you start. That's called moral rationalization. In the ethics world, that's where someone who does something wrong, but they try to rationalize the misconduct by either blaming someone else or saying that they're entitled to something. People think it's necessary to get ahead through, cheating, when it's not, or they try to rationalize what they've done. It's called moral rationalization in the ethics world.
Well, one of the things that has happened over there is this instructor, this Mr. Quinn, Professor Quinn, who has given these kids the option to fess up. They know who did it. I mean, they say they know who did it. I assume they know who did it. And, fess up and say you did it. Take an ethics class. And everybody, I guess, retakes the test. The kids who were not thought to be cheating get to take the higher grade of the test. I mean, the other options kick them out of school, right? And it has been done, yes?
Oh, yes, absolutely. There are some colleges that are very big on this, have kids sign a form stating as they enter the school that I agree with everything that the honor code has to say. Some will have parents sign it as well. Some colleges are very diligent in that regard. But also a lot of universities, they don't want the lawsuits. So they may not, they'll give a kid an opportunity to take that test over again rather than have to deal with all the ramifications of a lawsuit.
I was going to ask you a question, and I apologize if I'm springing something on you. Is this something along the way, if you get caught at something like this, can it follow you out into the business world from college?
Oh, absolutely. You know, eventually you're going to be applying for a job, and if you've got a tarnished academic honor code history on your background, that could affect you in getting a job. I mean, businesses are required to promote culture and a culture of compliance and ethics in their programs to comply with federal law and regulations. You don't want someone who's going to come in and violate those provisions. You want someone who's going to comply with them. So this could follow someone for quite a long time. I mean, look what the coach had follow him all the way through Notre Dame.
And I would imagine the same thing that allowed these kids to get their hands on these test results or on these questions, the internet. Because of the internet today, things can follow you a whole lot longer than they used to.
Absolutely. You have to be so careful of what you're saying, who you say you're a member of, or organization that you're a member of, or what you've earned in your life. It just takes one person who's somewhat adept and they can ruin your career.
Was this more likely to happen in a larger class than a smaller one? Or does it matter?
I don't think it matters. We've seen it at the military academies. We've seen it at the Ivy League schools. We've seen it at big state universities. It doesn't seem to make a difference as to where it occurs.
LT, we're going to have to go here in a second. I'm going to let you have the last word. I mean, so many people seem to be so outraged by this. I mean, it seems to be a breakdown in the whole system, doesn't it?
It does to some extent. I mean, some people want to blame the professor because there is an obligation on the professor to make sure you have a system in place that can preclude cheating from taking place and to make sure that the instructions are clear. But what I like about what the professor did in this case is he had a business lesson for them. Not only did he threaten to punish them, but he gave them the opportunity to come forward, to be accountable and to be responsible. And that's an important business lesson to take forward into the world. And that's what he's trying to do as a business professor.
We got to run. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks today to Michael Kennedy, LT Lafferty. This is a fascinating subject. I wish we had more time. Thanks to all of you for watching, for sharing your opinions. Tomorrow on Your Turn, foreclosures.